What is going on, guys? Well, yesterday we got our real first news on Wake Island, the next map to come out for our Pacific Theater update. We got an article on the Battlefield website talking about the history of Wake Island and the significance it has had in the Battlefield franchise. We also got some new details on the map, getting us all ready to play this iconic map for the Battlefield community coming up here in December. And though this is the next map to release, we still have one more map to complete the 4 maps we're getting specifically for the Pacific Theater update. With this 4th map, there's been basically no information at all given from DICE. The only thing we have to go on so far is some concept art, specifically this image right here where we see Japanese and United States forces battling it out in a terrain that we haven't really seen as of yet. You see a bunch of palm trees everywhere with a mountain in the background. Almost could look like Iwo Jima with that mountain, but there was way less palm trees around when fighting on Iwo Jima, and it is missing the iconic black sands when you look on the ground. The landscape is too vertical to be something than the real flat terrain of Wake Island, and the image's full focus on land combat with no nod to any type of amphibious battle makes this image not a really good fit for describing Pacific Storm. So it really only left us to believe that this is the first image of the 4th and final map to come out for the Pacific. We also had a couple months back some leaked data mine information from Temporal of some of the code names being used for the new maps. It's how we on this channel knew that DICE was revisiting Wake Island again, as one of the code names for the maps was Wake Island. The other code name was Iwo Jima, which is a given. We then had Tropic Islands that fits into what we know today as Pacific Storm. And finally we had the code name Jungle. This gave us a little bit more of an idea of what this map would be like, but still no real substantial information like the location name or the battle name being fought. Fortunately today it seems like DICE accidentally helped us out a little bit. It looks like they had a little UI slip caught by some members of the community. They end up inadvertently revealing location of our 4th and final map's location. As you can see from the image here, we're going to be heading to the Solomon Islands. This was not a data mine leak this time. This is something that DICE has slipped up before in the past, where they've accidentally revealed some information in the UI that they didn't intend to do at that time. So it's why I'm pretty confident this is the location of our 4th map. Of course, DICE could just be messing with us here and just kind of threw that out and just wanted to kind of lead us down the wrong track. But when you see how well Solomon Islands fits into the codename Jungle and into the concept art we already have, you'll see why I'm fairly confident this is giving a location for our 4th and final map. There's also some pretty interesting previously leaked data mine content of some new stuff coming out sometime hopefully in the future that I think would complement the events of the Solomon Islands. It feels like they could fit really well together, and I think this is something that we might want to explore here. So we'll talk about more about that here in a second, but I'm going to come back to this image here, and I think this may have happened on PC because I didn't see this UI slip on Xbox today. It appears like they just had the name put in but nothing else, as there's not even an image next to the map when you scroll to it. So again, DICE has made blunders like this before in the past, and if you actually click the link down below that I'll put in the comments, you can see our community manager Jeff Braddock respond to this. So if you also pull up some historical photos of the Guadalcanal campaign, this was the campaign by the American forces around the island of Guadalcanal, which is the major island of the Solomon Islands. And you'll see just by the images of the terrain that it's much more of a match with the jungle-like landscape. It also has a large mountain on it, and to me it makes much more of a match for this location. There were battles on some of the other islands, but I don't see DICE focusing on areas that don't have a major focus for the campaign. So now what I find really interesting is diving into more how the Solomon Islands played out, because you'd be surprised again how this may lead into some other leaked information that hasn't been confirmed yet by DICE. So the big thing about this campaign was it basically being a war of attrition, a term we've heard a lot since the launch of Battlefield 5, and if you guys have seen some of the leaked stuff in the past, we still have this very interesting 64-player game mode that has resources play a role on the battlefield. If you guys have watched the Battlefield Weekly episode from DICE today, David Serlin talked about diving into the fantasy layer for the Pacific and why he thought the fantasy layer with the sandbox gameplay of Battlefield is the reason why the Pacific has done much better than anything else on Battlefield 5 so far. So it's why I'm thinking we may see something like this resource game mode coming out as well, if DICE is really trying to immerse us into this fantasy layer, which I'm all for. I think these are great ideas from DICE, whether this specific game mode leak comes out or not. I think them doubling down on this, again, fantasy layer, specifically around the 64-player battles, which I feel pretty confident is going to be the major focus of new game modes coming out here in the future. Jumping back to this jungle map, and the first concept art we had of it, it's pretty interesting to go relook at this image and see all the katanas being used around. I look back at this now and feel like I should have caught on to what this image was really telling me. There's no way DICE is putting such an emphasis on just ordinary melee weapons. So I do want to say as well that I am doubting my original statement when I heard about the code name for this jungle map being more of an infantry focused battle. I mean, in the concept art, there's no indication of vehicles, and again, the map is described as jungle, so it felt to me like an area that would be more dominated with infantry gameplay. But knowing the location of the battle now and what really happened there, I'm not quite sure anymore if this is going to be purely an infantry only map. With that said, even though this is going to be the same two factions for the Pacific, it will be interesting to see if DICE brings in some Australian or New Zealand elites, as the Solomon Islands played a role to things going on in Australia and New Zealand. So keep an eye out for that, and similar cosmetic items to come out on top of probably more Japanese and American cosmetics as well. But that's all I got for you guys today. Feel free to let me know what you guys think about this final location show up for the Pacific. I almost don't want to say final because I feel like it's way too soon, which it is. We haven't even made it to Wake Island as of yet, and it's still only coming out mid-time December. So I think if I would take a wild guess when Solomon Islands will come out, probably be during the later time of January. Now, I will give DICE some credit here. They haven't been pulling an Owl Sedan on us yet since the Pacific Theater has launched, so I'm hoping they continue this momentum moving into next year, because they've been doing not all too bad as of late. So good job on DICE and what they've been doing lately, and I hope they continue this, because man, it would be a really nice thing to experience some really solid content coming out for the new year, pushing on to 2020. So that is it for you guys today, though. Again, I always appreciate you guys being here. I am Living, and I'll catch you guys again later.